Hi, and welcome to Church of Aliens for another episode. I know it's been a bit of a while since I've uploaded something, but here's another video for you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. And on this one, we're going to be discussing Peter Levenda's Men in Black experience. It was a wonderful podcast episode that he did. I think it's called The Phenomenon. Quite a long one, I think almost an hour and a half, and it was great. There hasn't been many Peter Levenda podcasts recently, and anytime I see his name pop up, I always do my best to download it as quick as I can and listen to it. And in this one particularly, there was quite a fascinating and spooky story that he mentioned. The podcast host asked a question about non-human intelligence and whether they are among us, they are cloaking themselves, and what he generally thought about these. And he started telling a story when he lived in New England in the 1990s during the Gulf War, and he was living in there in a house, and he was driving back home from shopping, and his house had a driveway that led onto the road, and he said it was like a normal, typical day. He was driving to his home from shopping. He got out of the car, started unloading, and he noticed another car outside, parked outside in front of his house, a black Cadillac. And to his surprise, he noticed that there was someone inside with a wide-angle lens taking pictures of him. Of course, this would frighten anyone, and it sounds like something out of a movie. But he goes to say that he was quite startled by it as he was getting all his shopping out of from the bags and into his house, and he looked into this car and just started walking towards it to try and chase it and see or get closer to it. At that stage, as soon as he was going to get closer to that car that was taking pictures of him, the car started driving off. He was going to go back to his car, and then another car, it was a sedan, that one of those wooden panel type of cars, those olden 1970s cars. He was ready to drive out and chase this car, and this car goes straight into his driveway, parks in, and stops him from chasing that black SUV. He then tells that he gets out of this car and goes to the sedan that's parked in front of the driveway, and these two little ladies, young ladies, get out of the car and start walking towards him. He said they look quite creepy. He said they look kind of out of place, like almost they were from the Manson family, and they were long clothes, and had like kind of pale and beige skin. And he mentioned that they were just asking for directions. As soon as they got out of the car, they got out too, and they just asked, "Do you know where the Vilbus is?" Quite a strange name, but he was quite surprised and didn't understand what was going on. And he mentioned, "What the Vilbus? I don't know anything." And he sort of looked back at the car, the SUV that was driving off, and it disappeared. So he couldn't chase it. And then these ladies just left after he told them that no, he doesn't know anything about the Vilbus. But after this happened, he started to research this De Vilbus place that these two ladies mentioned. And it happened to be that it was actually an old factory that Peter Levenda himself contacted about something. I don't know what, but he mentioned that he contacted them, and they were actually in Ohio. And it was almost like years ago, so maybe like 10 years ago, he contacted them about something, and that name was in his mind, in the back of his mind. He doesn't even think about that. But during that experience, Peter seems to insinuate that they were able to extract that from him or bring that out and uh, say it to him. He was very freaked out by this, of course. Who would anyone be if they had experience like this? And um, he goes on to say that he does believe that they are walking among us, and that they are, in the sense, cloaking themselves or projecting themselves in a way that we would be able to see them and recognize them, but in a very odd way. Like they're always a step back in time, quite old, and they don't quite fit. They're like trying to pretend to be human, something like that, along the lines that he was mentioning in this interview. And then he mentioned another interesting story when he was doing I think it was a panel conference in Netherlands or something about the deep space program, something along those lines. And there was the author Timothy Good there, and they met and became quite good friends, and started sharing a bottle of scotch one night, talking amongst themselves. They both got quite drunk, and it must have been that Peter Levenda mentioned this story to Timothy Good, and uh, he mentioned to him that can happen again. If you, he mentioned that if you want to see them like that again, to go into a crowded place and get real quiet, just meditate, focus on your breathing, get real quiet, but sit in a crowded place like a train station, an airport, something like that, and just ask for them to show themselves. Tell them that you are here, and that to show that to for them to show themselves. And he said, when you do that, you'll find somebody. When you open your eyes, you'll find somebody staring at you, smiling. And then when you go on to say it to say hello to them or anything, they will just vanish. And Timothy Good, Timothy Good kind of goes into this sort of similar idea that, in a sense, they're whatever these are, the non-human entities can appear. Especially, I think it kind of reminded me of how Stephen Greer used the CE5 protocols to, in a sense, tell these intelligences that you're here, and then to come, and that it's peaceful, and they show up. It sounds something very similar to that, where you're able to just sit in a quiet space in your mind with lots of people, and be able to talk to some other being, some other intelligence that can communicate back. So this was quite a fascinating story that I wanted to mention, and want to know what you guys thought. Do you guys think that the Men in Black are actually like how Peter Levenda um, recounts a story like that, and how Timothy Good as well? Or is it something else? Is it more something that is used within the government agencies to quiet and then manipulate UFO experiences? I don't know. There's lots of different theories about it, but just wondering what you guys thought. And yeah, see you next time.